Hello there, I want to show you the treasure maps. This is a feature of Kepler and Sirius. So I'm in the Kepler 2.0 software and I'm looking at the chart of Josh Groban, the singer. And the treasure map will tell me what areas are great for him for, say, love and romance or for career and so on. So I click on Maps, I click on Astro Map, and then I get the window for selecting all kinds of Astro Maps. All kinds of stuff, geodetic maps and parent maps and local space, etc., the normal astrocartography, and one of the choices is treasure map. The treasure map will tell us what areas are good for example, love and romance. So let's go ahead and click OK to see this. First I'm going to select the United States. So we'll just look at a part of the world so we can see more detail. And I click OK, we'll get the map. Now the treasure maps take a few seconds to run because it makes a detailed shading with all this yellow and red so that you can see what areas are strongest. So the red means very strong. So this curved area here is excellent for love and romance for Josh Groban. And this area looks a little wider, maybe not quite as bright red, also very, very good. And the yellow areas are also strong, not as strong as the bright red. So you get an instant visual of what areas are great for love and romance. Now, how does the software do this? How does the Kepler program and the Sirius program do this? This is the idea. The idea is we take a planet that's related to the topic, in this case Venus, and we see everything related to Venus. We see the major aspects. Here's an example of a major aspect, Venus opposition. This lower resolution of the video and the smaller size may make it difficult to read, but on the actual screen it's readable. It says Venus opposition at the bottom of this line. It's in yellow, means to the ascendant. It means Venus is opposite the ascendant on the 7th house cusp. In these areas, in his relocated chart, Venus is opposite the ascendant. So obviously that's clearly outstanding for love and romance. I think every astrologer would agree. But in addition to that, we might want to see places that have minor aspects and midpoints. And different astrologers have different opinions about this. Some astrologers think midpoints are tremendously important. Some astrologers think that aspects like quintiles are important. Some think they're completely unimportant. So if you don't think these minor aspects and midpoints are important, then you really don't need the treasure map. Because if you're only using major aspects, there are only a few lines on the map and you can see everything clearly. This is for people who want to consider the minor aspects and the midpoints and see where everything is going on and to weight it appropriately so that it's clear. So every feature in the Kepler and Sirius programs is good for certain people. There's no feature that's for everybody. So this may or may not be the feature that you will love, but it's there for people who like it. Now, it's also great for exploring ideas. Maybe you're not sure about midpoints and minor aspects. Well, let me show you a feature now that makes this very cool. Which is the explanation of the Astro Map. Because we can see here the Venus-Mars midpoint. Slash means midpoint. The midpoint of Venus and Mars, and there's an opposition glyph there. I don't know if you can read it or not, but the Venus-Mars midpoint is opposite the ascendant. Yellow means to the ascendant, going through here. So what does that mean? Going right through Dallas and Oklahoma City. What does it mean? We can go to Maps, click on Explanation of Astro Maps, and then click on the explanation of the treasure maps, and it will tell us what it means. Let's check the explanation of the love and romance treasure map. We have these different choices. We click OK, and up pops the explanation in a separate window. And we can scroll down to the Venus-Mars midpoint with the yellow background. So there it is. Again, it's small, probably on this captured video, but it says the Venus/Mars conjunction or opposition Love and romance are highlighted here. A new passion might be felt in your marriage, or if you are single, you are likely to become involved in romantic relationships here. This is also a good geographic area for creative art. So there it is. Venus, Mars, we get an idea of what it means. Let's look at something. Let's look at one of these minor aspects. For example, Venus 72 degrees. What does that mean? Well, we can scroll to Venus 72 right there. Except we want the red one. This is the yellow. We can scroll down to the red ones. Below the yellow ones are the ones with a pink background. Scroll down to the Venus 72. There it is. The pink background means it's related to this red one. Venus 72 vertical. So it's a great place for you if you are interested in art, literature, theater, or other cultural activities. Your own creative abilities can be perfected here as well. So that's a Venus 72 degrees to the midheaven. It's a quintile. It's creative, artistic place related to career. So, and that has a slight love and romance quality to it, of beauty and so on, but not as much as the others. So it's just a slight effect. And it's just yellow, it's not bright red. Also, let me show you one more thing. If I scroll up here to the introduction, it tells me that 40 has the same interpretation as 20, 80, 100, 140, and 160. These are the novile aspects. So, for example, here's a Venus 100 degrees going right just on the east side of Minneapolis to the midheaven. 100 degrees to the midheaven means it's 80 from the fourth house cusp, which makes it a 2/9 aspect. That's a little bit technical, but the bottom line is that these are in the novile family, Venus to the midheaven, and I can scroll down to the Venus 40, which is the same as meaning as the 100. In this area, you are likely to have a pleasant home life with kind, loving friends and family members. Your work environment is likely to be friendly and warm as well. And this will lead to a little bit of inclination to romance, because there's friendliness, there's warmth, there's kindness, and that is slightly positive for love and romance as well. Let me click over here on the Astro Map and bring the whole thing to the foreground. So that's the idea. It's going to show you everything related to love and romance by looking at all the aspects to the relocated ascendant axis, the ascendant 7th house line, and the midheaven axis, the midheaven and 4th house, everything related to it, including the quintiles, noviles, and septiles, if they might be related to love and romance, are here. And to see a summary of everything that's included, we can look at this explanation. So the Venus conjunct the ascendant, opposite the ascendant, square, semi-square or sesquiquadrat the ascendant, trine or sextile the ascendant, semi-sextile or quincunx, the novile aspects, the quintile aspects, the Venus-Mars midpoint, the Sun-Venus midpoint, Moon-Venus midpoint, Venus-Jupiter midpoint, Venus-Uranus midpoint, Venus-Neptune, Venus-Pluto. And that's it. And it will repeat that for the midheaven. So those midpoints related to love and romance, for example, Venus-Uranus midpoint, if you're an astrologer, you know that Venus-Uranus leads to excitement. You can have fun here. While you can have fun here, you may also find that it's difficult to maintain stability, and relationships you form here might disappear just as suddenly as they appeared. So there's that interpretation for Venus-Uranus midpoint on the ascendant. So that's the idea. There's the love and romance in the United States for Josh Groban. I'll quickly show you the other treasure maps. I'll right-click on here, the vocation and career. Click on OK, and we're going to see everything related to achieving, to Mars and Jupiter and the Sun. All the aspects, midpoint structures related to achievement. For example, Mars-Jupiter midpoint, opposite the midheaven, coming right through Montreal, just east of New York. So that would be an example. What does Mars-Jupiter midpoint mean? Well, we can go to the explanation. Let's go to Maps, Explanation, Treasure Maps, click on the Vocation and Career, and we'll go down to the Mars-Jupiter midpoint, the pink one, which is related to midheaven, and there it is. There's the Mars/Jupiter conjunct or opposition. The interpretation is great place for work and career. You are likely to get excellent support from others and opportunities that are very good for you. You find yourself in an environment where there is a lot of opportunity for growth and expansion, and also the drive and ambition to achieve these goals. So that's the Mars-Jupiter midpoint going right through here. So if you think midpoints are important and minor aspects are important, or if you're curious about exploring them and seeing how they could relate to vocation and career, the treasure map is a wonderful way to explore all the things that are related to achieving things in your life, making things bigger, like Sun-Jupiter midpoint going through here west of Washington, D.C. Let's see how that differs from the Mars-Jupiter interpretation. Sun-Jupiter midpoint. Job and career opportunities are very good for you in this area. You attract the interest and support of employers and business people, and there are opportunities for you to advance in your career because it's expansive. Okay, that's the idea. Here's Mars sextile the midheaven, and so on. Jupiter trine the midheaven. And then Sun opposite the ascendant coming in through here, also related to career. Anything that could be related to career is shown, and you can look at the explanation to get more information about what it means. I'll quickly show you the others. I'll right-click, which in the Kepler and Sirius software is a quick way to bring up your settings. Let's look at the friendship and family. Friendship and family is going to emphasize the moon, also Venus. So we see here moon opposite the midheaven means on the fourth house. Fantastic for the family and home, all those kind of things. Also these soft aspects, the noviles and sextiles and trines create a softness and a sweetness. The idea of noviles is that they're similar to the sextiles and trines in a way. They're soft and gentle. Here's a Venus trine, the midheaven, which would mean also sextile, the fourth house, coming in through here. Here's a Moon-Jupiter midpoint, and so on. And if you want to get the details on what it means, again, we can look at the explanation. So everything related to friendship and family, all the aspects and midpoint structures that are related to it. Imagination and inspiration, well, that's going to be Neptune. So we'll see all the aspects and midpoint structures related to Neptune. Here's Neptune opposite the midheaven. Bright red because that's a major aspect. And we see things like Uranus-Neptune midpoint opposite the midheaven. Here's Neptune 108 degrees. In the explanation of the Astro Map, it tells us the 108 is the same as the 72. The technicalities of that is because if you're 108 degrees the ascendant, is 72 the quintile to the 7th. But you don't have to understand all those technicalities. You can just see the 108, look it up in the explanation to see exactly what it means. But it's going to be inspirational. Okay, let's look at the others real quick. Excitement and instability. That, of course, is Uranus. And I've seen people get into accidents. I almost got into an accident myself on one of these lines. Excitement and instability. Here's Uranus opposite the midheaven, which would be the same, means conjunct the fourth house cusp. Here's Uranus square the ascendant. How do I know it's the ascendant? Because it's yellow, means the ascendant. The label is yellow, and of course it curves around. The ascendant lines curve. So again, we have the midpoints. We also have minor aspects. Here's one of the septiles in the explanation of the maps. I'll click on it here. It tells us up here that the 5126 and the ones with minutes, 2543, 7709, etc., the ones with minutes, like the 154 degrees and 17 minutes, those are septiles. And we can scroll down to see what that means. We can pull up the explanation and see exactly how that's unstable. But it's small and it's yellow, meaning it's not as important as this big, bright red area, which is Uranus opposite the midheaven. We also have a detailed friendship and family map. The detailed friendship and family map includes other novile aspects. These novile aspects are healing and gentle, according to the theory of minor aspects. So even the Sun or Jupiter in a novile aspect will give some tendency to be supportive. You get support. People that use these minor aspects believe that if you don't get the support from these minor aspects, you can feel lonely and left out. So you want to see if there's some support, like these white areas. Can be difficult. So it will include things like Jupiter, 20 degrees to the ascendant, and Saturn is also 20 degrees. These are noviles, and they'll give some support, some feeling of connectedness to the community. And for details, we can pull up the explanation. I just want to give you the basic idea of these. I'll right-click. There's an education and communication treasure map. That, of course, is Mercury. Now, this is interesting. His Mercury-Saturn midpoint and the Mercury-Jupiter midpoint, he must have a Jupiter-Saturn conjunction. We can click on his wheel and look. But the Mercury-Jupiter midpoint and Mercury-Saturn midpoint both going right through here, just west of Chicago. Great for communication, and we could pull up the explanation to get exact meaning of what of what that influence is. Okay, well, let's just move on and see the last three: culture and creativity. Culture and creativity is the quintiles. The quintiles are creative aspects. These are very important for people in creative areas like artists. And Josh Groban is a singer, so creativity will be important. And we see a lot of these quintile aspects coming right in through West Texas and so on, right in this area, just west of Denver. So you also, of course, need to take into account the geography. If he's going on a concert or doing creative work, it's more likely to be in an urban area. There aren't a lot of urban areas here, where there is Denver, just east, and so on. So you have to use common sense about what is possible in those areas as well, and what their potential is. Okay, let me just show you one thing before I leave this. See this Venus 108 going right through Atlanta? So Venus making a quintile kind of aspect, it would actually be quintile to the fourth house aspect, would mean that Atlanta would be a great creative area for him. I don't know much about Josh Groban and if that has happened, but I would expect that to be a good, him to have some successful concerts and so on in Atlanta, because the creativity is strong. Okay, we'll right-click. We have an optimism and opportunity. That's Jupiter. So all the minor aspects, midpoint structures, etc., related to Jupiter. Here's Jupiter trine the midheaven. All astrologers know that that's big. Big things happen west of Minneapolis and so on. But you may be interested in less obvious things besides the trine, like the Mercury-Jupiter midpoint coming in west of Chicago. Venus-Jupiter, where you tend to have a little bit of luxury, make money, spend money, things like that, just east of Detroit and so on. Sun-Jupiter, again, which is also good for career, We saw that in the vocation and career. You're big. These are places where you're big. Jupiter, Moon Jupiter, big family. That shows up also in the friendship and family. So some of these things will, are going to affect more than one treasure map. So this is warmth and expansiveness with people that you're close to. Sun Jupiter is where you shine, where you're big. You can have a lot of success. He's going to shine in this Washington, D.C. area, and so on. Okay, and the last one is responsibility and focus. This is Saturn. This is where you have focus, and Saturn is sometimes called the Great Malefic. Personally, I find that Saturn is great for focusing, getting down to the details of things, and getting the hard work done, and it's focus, practice, discipline, and perfecting things. So Saturn trying the midheaven, coming in through here, all astrologers would recognize that. But how about a Mercury-Saturn midpoint for mental focus, coming in here? Venus-Saturn, commitment, responsibility. No, Sun-Saturn is intense focus and responsibility, probably more than most people would like. Mars-Saturn, where you can work hard and get things done. What if you're not so good with coming up with those interpretations? Well, let me show you. Go to the maps again, the explanation of treasure maps, select the explanation of the responsibility and focus treasure map, click OK, we'll scroll down. Remember the Mars-Saturn, which is the red, I said it was good for hard work. Hard work is a good thing, or it can be a good thing. So we find the Mars-Saturn. There it is. Maybe hard to read in this captured video. Look a little bit blurry, but it's very readable in the actual program. Mars-Saturn, midpoint, conjunct, or opposition to midheaven. Your dedication and commitment to career and work can be very strong here. You may find yourself working long hours, doing the hard work that is necessary to achieve your goals. Okay? So people practicing to be Olympic champions can go to their Mars-Saturn line, have that focus and discipline to perfect and achieve great things. Okay, so that's what the treasure maps are all about. They show themes in your life based on the idea that midpoints and the quintiles and septiles and novile aspects are also important. So if that idea interests you and you want to see everything related to a planet and how it's focused and be able to pull up the interpretations, that's what treasure maps are for. Now, again, suppose you're not a fan of midpoints, or you're not a fan of quintiles and septiles, you're really not interested in that. No problem. Don't use the feature. The idea of this software is to give everything to everybody. Most people use less than 5% of the software. So it's just another feature for people who like this. We have people who love this. They build their careers around this. They're relocational astrologers. They just pull up these maps, pull up the exact meaning, exactly how that relates to a person. The combination of seeing the map and the explanation is fantastic. For people who either want to learn these ideas, explore them, or are already certain that they're important and rely on them in their professional practice, or for guiding themselves and friends and family. Okay, my friends, thank you very much for listening. God bless. Namaste.